TikTok can be an easy way if you're also live streaming yes, on TikTok, it's gonna be already in stream the TikTok format. So I recommend starting with the blank canvas. So if you already have scenes and profiles, maybe making a new one, so never too far, profile, select new, give it whatever you want, and then the scenes as well, select new, and then name it. From here, remove the file and settings, and we're gonna go to the video. Here is where all the magic happens. By default, we're at 1920 by 1080. What we're gonna do is flip this around. So the new resolution should be 1080 by 1920. Make sure we match our output for this as well. Then go ahead and configure your other stream settings. Talk through for your PC. After you're done, don't forget to hit the Y and then OK. As you can see here, our canvas transformed to a portrait format, which is exactly what we want. You can record your scene and upload it on the TikTok, Instagram Reels, or even YouTube Shorts. It's an easy way.
I can go live on TikTok with 3,000 followers. This is how it is. First, you're going to want to look up TikTok Live. Then you're going to click this, click on free download. Then you're going to come to your desktop and open it. Once you're here, you should come to the top right corner, click on it. Right here, it should say no access view, but you're going to click on that. It should bring you to a page that looks like this. If it's say no access view. Once you're here, you should come to the top right corner, click on it. Right here, it should say no access view, but you're going to click on that. It should bring you to a page that looks like this. If it says no access to open, just look it up right here. For me, it's not going to say it because I'm pretty over. But if you click here, it should say apply now. You're going to apply, do all this stuff. You're free to go live. I can go live on TikTok with 2,000 followers. This is how it is. First, you're going to click on that.
Hey chat, in a few I might turn off the live stream to bring my gaming setup upstairs in my room.
but this is important. Shooter who murdered my sweet little Daniel got a highly lethal weapon with him.
According to Deborah, her brother had driven from Virginia to Ohio with all his. In 2011, this job posting was uploaded to Craigslist, asking for someone to watch over a patch of farmland and feed a few cows somewhere in southern Ohio in exchange for $300 a week. It ended up being one of the most notorious cases of ad-related crimes of the decade. The ad read, "Caretaker position for farm, southern Ohio. Simply watch over a 688-acre patch of hilly farmland and feed a few cows. You get $300 a week and a nice 2-bedroom trailer. Someone older and single preferred, but we'll consider all. Relocation a must. You must have a clean record and be trustworthy. This is a permanent position. The farm is used mainly as a hunting preserve, is overrun with game, has a stocked 3-acre pond, but some beef cattle will be kept. Nearest neighbor is a mile away. The place is secluded and beautiful. It will be a real getaway for the right person. Job of a lifetime. If you are ready to relocate, please contact ASAP. Position will not stay open. Include name, age, phone number, and email, please." Some of the men who responded to the ad were interviewed directly by a man who identified himself as Jack, with his 16-year-old accomplice, he referred to as his nephew. The candidates who made it to the interview stage said they didn't notice anything strange about Jack or his so-called nephew, and that they just looked like a couple of farmers who needed someone to look after their land. Scott Davis, a 48-year-old man who was interviewed by Jack over breakfast at a restaurant in Marietta, Ohio, was the second to last candidate to go through the screening process for the job. After breakfast, he rode with Jack and Brogan to a remote wooded area near Akron. Immediately after getting out of the car to survey his surroundings, Davis heard a clicking sound. He turned around to see Jack holding a gun at him. It was then that he realized that the clicking had been the gun misfiring, but before he could react, Jack shot him in the elbow. Despite the wound, Davis managed to escape. He ran for his life for 7 hours through the woods, eventually finding a house and asking the owner for help. They called 911, and news about the incident began to spread. 2 days later, police received a call from a woman named Deborah Bruce, who claimed that her 51-year-old twin brother David Pauly had responded to the same job ad on Craigslist. According to Deborah, her brother had driven from Virginia to Ohio with all his belongings in his car, in hopes that the new job would work out for him and help him get back on his feet. A couple days later, police found the body of David Pauly, along with the body of another victim by the name of Ralph Geiger, buried in the woods close to where Scott Davis had been shot in the elbow. At this point in the case, investigators were able to identify a pattern in the victims. Jack and Brogan targeted homeless, down on their luck, or otherwise vulnerable middle-aged men with limited family ties and lured them to an isolated location under the appearance of a life-changing job opportunity to later rob them of their belongings and shoot them on the spot. Their hope was that because of their few family ties, their disappearance would go unnoticed, giving Jack and Brogan enough time to bury the bodies and get rid of the evidence. This pattern explains why certain people in the interview process, such as 58-year-old Ron Sanson, a former Navy officer with a college degree, and an unnamed woman in her 20s who had also applied for the job. During the investigation, police traced the Craigslist ad, which led them to the home of a man named Joe Weiss in Akron, Ohio. He denied posting the ad and claimed that it was probably posted by the man who rented out his basement space. For the landlord's tenant, who responded that he only knew him as Dutch. Investigators quickly tracked Dutch down thanks to a phone call that he made to Joe Weiss, unaware that his landlord had been in contact with the police. On November 16, 2011, police identified him as 52-year-old Richard Beasley. Scott Davis immediately confirmed that this was the same man who had interviewed him at the restaurant and shot him in the woods. Apparently, Richard Beasley had fled from the police and used different identities to avoid being detected, and using the names of some of his victims. Around that time, police also arrested Brogan Rafferty, Richard Beasley's teenage accomplice. At the time, Brogan was a 16-year-old high school student from Stowe, Ohio, who Beasley had mentored and taken under his wing. Police searched Rafferty's house and found several weapons, as well as a disturbing poem hidden in his computer files from August 16, 2011, that showed summer's night. The loud crack echoed, and I didn't hear the thud. Investigators later determined that the poem described the murder of Ralph Geiger, one of the victims police had found in the woods. A few days later, on November 25th, a fourth victim, a 47-year-old man named Timothy Kern was found dead in the woods behind a mall in Akron. In 2013, Brogan Rafferty was sentenced to life without parole, and Richard Beasley was sentenced to execution after being found guilty of 27 total accounts of aggravated murder, kidnapping, and possession of illegal weapons. This innocent-looking job ad ended up being one of the most notorious luring posts in the site's history, and it played a strong contributing role in the sketchy connotation that
They say the Chinese get through the wall. I don't know Chinese, but I'm actually gonna try. Hongo. Yumi.
On January 2nd, 2016, a disturbing ad was posted in the personal section of Craigslist. The personal section was a place where people could post personal ads for a variety of reasons. It was an interesting mix between an online dating platform, a space where people could rant and share their opinions on personal experiences, and a place for people to find friends with similar interests. Most people use the personal section for legitimate reasons. It was also notorious for scams and other illegal activities, which is why Craigslist removed the section in 2018. This particular ad was posted by a person claiming to be was mentioned two public officials by name, and the person who uploaded the ad said that they would strike again. The ad read, "I was wanting to thank Tulsa for letting me have my first kill. It all started here, so I was thinking it should also be my first. I was nervous as hell, but I will get over it. It was a stranger on stranger, so the police will have a difficult time. It will not be my last, though. Thinking about going to OKC for next. To the people who started it all, Julie Free and Judge Glasgow." On the day that it was posted, the ad was immediately reported to the police, and an investigation was launched by the police. Specifically, the ad thanked a woman named Julie Free, an employee of the Department of Corrections, and Judge Glasgow, who worked in the probate division of the Tulsa County District Court. The post thanked them and referred to them as the people who started it all. Because Julie Free and Judge Glasgow worked in overlapping departments and would sometimes interact with the same offenders, police believe that the ad had to have been posted by someone who had, at some point, been involved in the system. It might have been an act of revenge to stain their image. Craigslist provided Tulsa Police Department information available on the post, but it didn't really lead anywhere. According to the police, there had been no recent crimes that matched the description provided. The police department said that the ad was probably a hoax, but they never found any evidence of it, which means it's still possible the post could have been legit. The homicide unit claimed that they had seen a similar situation before when a 918 number texted random people disturbing questions about where to bury a body. The thing about the ad that alarmed the police was that it specifically named two public officials. But to this day, it hasn't been confirmed whether this was just some sort of revenge hoax, or if something much more sinister was going on. In August of 2014, an 18-year-old girl named Haley Turner posted a Craigslist notice saying that she was, quote, looking to be abducted and taken away. Although the post immediately gained a lot of online attention, and images of the actual ad itself are no longer available. On August 7th, Haley left her house in Michigan and told her mother that she was going to run an errand. A few minutes later, she called a friend on the phone. During the conversation, she mentioned to her friend that she had noticed a man lying in the ditch in the middle of the road. She was going to get out to see if he was okay. A few seconds later, Haley uttered the words, "He has a gun." The phone was suddenly disconnected. Terrified, her friend immediately called Haley's father, who drove to the area just north of Ohio in Bedford Township and found his daughter's car. Haley was nowhere to be found. Haley was reported as a missing person, and an investigation was launched to find her. Strangely, police found that at 10:06 p.m. on August 7th, Haley had rented the DVDs for two movies from a family video store a few miles from Toledo, Ohio. The phone call with her friend had taken place a few minutes after that. 16 hours after her disappearance, a local resident found Haley standing in a random corner holding a puppy in Detroit. Although she was completely unscathed, she claimed that she had been abducted at gunpoint the night before and that she had jumped from a moving vehicle to escape her captor. The whole story didn't really seem to add up. The police had a hard time believing her. The video footage from the DVD store where she was last seen didn't show any suspicions. There were no signs on her body suggesting that she had been attacked. After hours police report to be filed. She received 6 years probation and 1 month of community service. She was $15,000 to reimburse the sheriff's office for their search. Although her motives for faking her own abduction were not revealed, her mother mentioned that it had been an emotionally difficult year for her daughter. Although she didn't justify her behavior, she interpreted the fake abduction as a cry for help. So the neighbors in their strange Craigslist post indicated that she wanted to seek attention online. These posts have since been deleted and are no longer publicly available. Police revealed that the man did actually respond to the ad, but Haley decided to fake her disappearance by herself instead of communicating with her. The fact that someone responded to this ad and was willing to carry out the abduction of an 18-year-old girl for money is pretty concerning. What makes this even creepier is that the man who responded to Haley's ad asking to be abducted was never found by police.
mw3 has tons of awesome themes, fun, just download now. Get ready to rise with more shine. Discover the Sealy Posturepedic collection at Ashley, featuring precision fit.
This creepy post was uploaded to Craigslist on July 21st, 2009, to be a Baltimore area homeowner. The ad pretty much speaks for itself, and it reads, "By now you've probably heard of the Glen Burnie family. It's freezer. It turns out that the law was broken. Yep, dumping a body is legal around here. Healthcare workers and other professionals are required to report deaths, but ordinary citizens are not. And apparently no state law prohibits the burial or storage of a body on private property. Even more grim, I'm willing to consider body dumping. Call it a private burial if you prefer. I could probably take a half dozen bodies without arousing the attention of neighbors. It wouldn't hurt to have one under the garden too. Me, a discreet Baltimore County homeowner with a half-acre of easily tillable property on a quiet dead-end street. You, an individual, not a healthcare worker or other professional required to report a death, with the awkward inconvenience of disposing of a deceased relative, friend, colleague, or acquaintance. You must provide your own trash bags, tarp, quicklime, shovel, etc. I might be available to hold a flashlight, but I won't do any heavy lifting. Accidental deaths or natural causes only. I'm not getting involved in any shenanigans with Omar wannabes. I will not be a participant in or any accessory to any sort of crime. This is a limited time offer. Act now before the state legislature changes the law. If and when the law changes, measures failed 10 years ago after the 1999 incident, you'll be grandfathered, literally and figuratively. Price is negotiable. Serious inquiries only." The post itself is off-putting enough, but the context behind the ad is even more disturbing. The links in the ad are both broken, but using the Wayback Machine, I was able to find a 2009 version of the website, Welcome to Baltimore Hunt, which appears to be a sort of online guide for users to upload news and posts about their experience living in Baltimore. The link in the Craigslist ad leads to a blog post written by a man named mw3. The article goes deeper into the reasons why he uploaded the ad to Craigslist and what he hoped to accomplish with his underground private burial business. In the comments, more than a few users asked the man if they could use his backyard for a burial. The fact that the uploader of the ad explicitly mentioned that he wouldn't get involved in any criminal activity by burying anyone who hadn't died of natural causes has created a lot of online speculation. Using his backyard as a body dumping location would have been perfectly legal, and the only reason the ad stayed up was advertising a legal service, such as burying people who have been murdered. This has made some people think that the only reason he didn't involved in any crimes in the first place was so that he could keep his ad up on the site, all while responding to emails and getting involved in much more shady body dumping business behind the scenes. It was never confirmed that this was actually the case. Despite the disturbing nature of the ad, the claims mw3 made in the Craigslist ad are true. In 2009, it was legal for ordinary citizens to abstain from reporting a death and dump a body in Maryland. And the incident that he makes reference to in the ad really did happen. In 2009, police were called to an apartment in Glen Burnie, Maryland, because the body of 83-year-old Doris Lee Cook was in the freezer. Police were told that the grandmother had died several weeks ago in the apartment she shared with her family. Because they had no idea in the freezer for 2 weeks. The other incident that the ad mentions happened in 1989. Father was injured partially. was to make money that big illegal. In 2007, from Michigan named Anne-Marie Linscott posted a generic freelance job on Craigslist. Although the ad has been deleted, no evidence was made publicly available due to the sensitive nature of the incident. People responded to the ad claiming that it looked like a job posting for a freelance writing gig. Disturbingly, as soon as the three people responded to the ad, they were emailed directly by Anne-Marie Linscott, who explained that she was acting for a silent assassin for an eradication task. She told the candidates that she was paid $5,000 and would allow a 6-year-old California woman named Carol, wife of a man named Dwayne. Linscott was having an affair with her. Reports Anne-Marie and Dwayne had met in an online college course in 2005. That same year, they met in person and began an affair when Dwayne traveled to Nevada for a conference. 2 years later, Anne-Marie visited Dwayne in California, after which she moved to the West Coast. That's when she posted the murder for hire ad on Craigslist. After the candidates all reported the ad to the police, investigators tracked down Anne-Marie Linscott and arrested her for using the internet to solicit murder. This time, an explosive inside of people's bedroom in California. Because it didn't go off, she wasn't charged. After the incident, Carol left her family and had to be hospitalized for stress. According to Linscott's friends and family, this wasn't the first time that Anne-Marie became obsessed with a public interest. In 1997, she fell in love with a coworker who had to get a restraining order after she began stalking him. Anne-Marie's lawyer explained that she suffered from borderline personality disorder and severe attachment issues. It didn't stop her for years in prison in 2009. After serving her 12-and-a-half-year sentence, Anne-Marie Linscott was only recently released from prison.
I didn't expect this sort of skill to be so solid. Click through now and download your AI for free to create your own characters to chat with.
In the early hours of October 15th, 1980, a small staff at WCPO in Cincinnati was working a Lane Reed and a channel photographer were heading out to their cars when a man carrying a semi-automatic rifle stepped out from the dark and ordered them back inside. He assured them no one was going to get hurt, he just wanted to say something he needed the camera. The man was 41-year-old James Lawrence, a network artist living in Cincinnati's over-the-road Buenos Aires city. With the rifle, he also had 5 handguns and roughly 600 rounds of ammunition. By the time the rest of the staff realized what was happening, James already had the entire newsroom under his control. He gathered and told Elaine he wanted to go live on television to deliver a message. Elaine, however, convinced him to record the interview on tape instead, preventing the station from hearing an unpredictable hostage situation live to viewers at home. No one at WCPO knew yet was that the most tragic part of the night had already happened hours earlier. When the camera finally started recording, James began explaining why he had come there in the first place, while holding a gun in his hand the entire time.
There's been so much violence.
He talked about
There's not enough attention paid for the poor people in the urban area, and there seems to be in the country a growing kind of black to keep the rich on top, so the poor people have no way to fight. They're becoming nice. They're fighting between the poor people. I don't know if you've ever been around here. You see the old people. They have nothing. I watch them. They have nothing. They sit in their bed all day long. That's all they're looking for.
then turned that frustration toward the media and the city itself, accusing news stations of only entering these developments for something and kill. City officials were going to houses of his actions with his for a man forcing people to listen to his most of James' complaints didn't sound completely detached from reality. He was rambling, and at times trying to take his thoughts to real problems and a system he believed had abandoned the people he was supposed to protect. This would go on for nearly 10 minutes. As the tape started running out, Elaine asked if there was any final point he wanted to make. James finally said what he actually wanted next.
Except, give me a place where the police can come and get me, we're gonna shoot it out. Maybe you can leave. Well, I don't see any place where we can shoot it out. They've got their mags. People sleep. I've got my mags. I'm ready. I'm loaded.
Hearing that, the people in the room tried to reason him out of his plan, pointing out that what he had just said sounded too idealistic to end in a shootout. And James's response to it immediately changed the context of the entire
I blew my girlfriend away from me.
Before coming to the station, James had shot his girlfriend, 30-year-old Melanie Finley. She was later found inside their shared apartment on 12th Street. This confession made his calmness even more disturbing, as it became clear that James was using the cameras to find a crop system. He was using them to explain something he believed could no longer be undone. And even after Elaine and others kept pleading that he could still get help, James insisted he was already past saving drugs, paranoia, and a plan he said had started long before that night.
I have no choice. I've been taking this real drug. I'm out of my mind. I can't. We planned. This whole thing was planned back in San Francisco. It was all started out. Over the period of time, I've become paranoid. So the drugs, the
He was certain that he couldn't come back from what he had committed already.
I know that I'm slipping away.
Can't wait before you slip in. You don't want to slip completely.
I'm gone. I'm gone. All they'll do. There is no help for me. Look, I murdered my girlfriend. I got her. Damn, man, I killed her.
After roughly 90 minutes, James let all 9 hostages leave unharmed and barricaded himself alone in the newsroom as police and SWAT surrounded the building. Negotiators spoke with him by phone through the morning, trying to talk him down. But at 9:15 a.m., while speaking to an officer on the phone, James said, "Well, it's time. I'm going to do it now." Police waited another 4 hours before entering the building, fearing it might be a trap. When they finally went inside at 1:45 p.m., they found James on the newsroom floor with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And when investigators searched his apartment, they realized the interview at WCPO may have only been one part of a much darker plan. They found more weapons, bomb-making materials, and detailed files on prominent city figures, filed under labels like political creeps, business creeps, and police tactics. Elaine Green later won a Peabody Award for her courage in the interview. Much of what James said that night still sounds like fair criticism even today, but the way in which he forced the world to hear it is what made the footage so disturbing. Halloween night 1990, roughly 150 people gathered at Blackbeard's Family Fun Center in Fresno, California to watch a local magician attempt something no stuntman had ever survived. 32-year-old Joseph Amazing Joe was a self-taught magician from Fresno who had spent years trying to surpass Harry Houdini and become the greatest escape artist ever. And on this night, the anniversary of Houdini's death, he wanted to prove it. His plan was to be handcuffed, wrapped in chains, locked inside a transparent plastic coffin, and a 7-foot ring, all recorded through TV. If everything went according to plan, he would escape in less than a minute. But the problem was that even Houdini himself had nearly done died attempting a version of this stunt in 1915, when the pressure of dirt got so overwhelming that he had to be pulled out by his assistants before he died of suffocation. Joe, however, had already survived a simpler version of the stunt. He escaped from a wooden coffin buried under dirt. That success gave him the confidence to go bigger. So, for the Fresno performance, Joe added something even Houdini used. But during the days leading up to the stunt, one small detail had already hinted that Joe may have been taking too big of a risk. Still, in a white tuxedo and white shoes, he gave the crowd no reason to think the stunt was in. In the crowd were members of his family, including his 13 and 10-year-old sons, which made it seem like Joe had everything under control. So, in front of everyone, he let his assistants handcuff him and wrap chains around him before sealing him inside the transparent plastic coffin. Once the lid was locked, the coffin was lowered into the 7-foot hole, and his assistants began shoveling it about 3 feet. Then, a cement truck pulled in and poured about 3 feet of wet concrete on top. The plan was for Joe to free himself before the wet cement fully dried up and trapped his escape route. But as soon as the hole was filled to the end, dirt and concrete both suddenly dropped about 2 feet, as witnesses heard the coffin shatter somewhere beneath all that weight.
It was cold. When it's trouble. We're in trouble. It's not fun anymore.
The crowd then waited for Joe to push back in and start digging through the same dirt and Joe's buried under. Unfortunately, by the time rescuers pulled him from the ground, pathologists later found concrete under his fingernails, suggesting that even after the coffin gave way, Joe may have still been trying to dig himself out. And most disturbing his collapse wasn't some freak accident no one could have seen coming. Joe's entire plan depended on him escaping the coffin, because once the concrete covered him, there was almost no room for delay. While in practice, the same escape had taken 5 minutes. On top of that, the plastic coffin had already cracked during one of the earlier practice runs, but instead of replacing it, it was from a hardware store. Even Joe's own assistant later said that he never calculated the combined weight of the dirt and wet concrete together, and that his only test of the coffin's strength was jumping on it. In the end, Joe Morris died on the same night as the magician he had spent his whole career trying to surpass. 4:30 p.m. on May 28th, 1982, viewers in Phoenix, Arizona had their regular programming interrupted by an unscheduled broadcast on KOOL.
Us to relay to you. Mr. Glenn, is it all right for our guest to leave the studio now? All right, you may leave now.
On the screen was veteran news director Bill Close, sitting next to a man he addressed and reading aloud from a handwritten script.
This is the script that Mr. Glenn gave me, and I'm going to read it verbatim. And anytime you wish to interrupt me,
The words jumped between country music singers, religious prophecies, civil war, and a coming World War III. To the viewers watching at home, the broadcast looked strange enough on its own. But what they couldn't see was a .38 caliber rifle aimed directly at Bill's stomach beneath the desk. The man sitting beside roughly 4.5 hours earlier, he had forced his way into the KOOL building carrying that revolver and a small portable television monitor. The first person he came across was production assistant Nancy Petranka, who he confronted before pushing past her and forcing his way deeper into the station. Louis stepped in his way and tried to stop it. But Joseph pistol whipped him across the head, locked him into a chokehold, and dragged him straight onto the set where Bill and 2 other station employees were preparing to go live for the evening news. With 4 employees now under his control, Joseph fired a single shot into the ceiling to prove his weapon was real. But when Bill asked what he wanted, Joseph's answer only raised more questions.
Visions and dreams, how God showed me what was going to happen in the future. Those cities are going to be built, there's going to be destroyed. There's going to be civil war in America, and America's going to be divided up.
By then, the people inside the station had already realized they were dealing with someone whose grip on reality was slipping, badly. Over the next several hours, Bill worked the phone with police negotiators, carefully relaying Joseph's demand to appear on television and have his statement read live on air. And every time he spoke to police, he had to walk back over to Joseph and calm him down before he started believing he was being stalled or ignored. But as the hours dragged on, Joseph became increasingly convinced that the station had no intention of broadcasting his message. And the longer he waited, the more desperate he became. So, with Joseph growing more unstable and a loaded revolver still pressed against Louis, police finally agreed to let him go live on air with Bill at around 9:30 p.m.
My name is Joe Gwynn. I am a watchman. Read the 33rd chapter of Ezekiel. This is about the story of the 10 prophets.
For the next 21 minutes, Bill read Joseph's 11-page, almost incoherent statement live to the people of Phoenix.
Facemoji has tons of awesome themes, fonts, and text art to choose from. Download now.
Travis Scott, AJ, one pink pack low.
The 10 prophets are Johnny Cash, Ronnie Millsap, Eddie Rabbit, Barbara Mondrell, Joe Gwynn, the Traitor. The Arizona Republic and Phoenix Gazette can verify the story. 16 years ago in September, about the 25th of 1966, all of these people's names above meet at the same time, including me. I was almost 13 years old. Together at the same moment. Mysteriously, I was the only one who knew what it was about.
Oh shit.
DK7, Ghost, and Who are all cheating. It's gonna be an interesting game.
Then he told me I was a watchman. Ezekiel chapter 33. The angel told me I would meet all these people.
Oh yeah, they're all three fucking hacking. Holy shit, all below level 200? Holy fuck.
They have this. Back to the beginning. Islam used sociology on our people. Islam was using this sociology. They used it on my generation.
Using an arrow.
Movement and drugs. And on today's generation to turn them into punks and punk rockers by hypnotism.
As the statement went on, Joseph's prophecies got even more bizarre, describing an American civil war and a Third World War that he believed were coming in the years ahead.
There's one camping over there in the corner.
Atomic bomb. These cities are Cyclone in Pennsylvania, Ominix in Arkansas, Yosemite, Nebraska,
Upstairs.
in New Mexico. All these cities will be isolated. After this happens, there will be civil war in America. The United States will be divided up into 4 countries. World War III will start in the fall of 1988. Edward Kennedy will lead the United States in World War III. Will be the next president and be elected 2 terms.
Oh, he's behind me.
Unite and fight these
Three fucking Mexicans.
there. Islam
They're all probably cheating too.
But the clearest sign of how important Joseph was came from the small monitor
Pussy.
the station was actually airing his message, as if the only Joseph trusted in that room was the version of reality playing out in his own mind. When Bill finished reading the final page, Joseph
Bro, these guys are camping, bro.
and surrendered without resistance.
I got a sweaty palm. I want to shake hands. You really do? You bet. I told you I was playing this fair. Did you think so? You didn't trust me. All this. Oh, no, it's all right. Leave alone. It's okay. Put down the guns. I have the gun. Back off with the guns.
At that point, the situation that could have changed the outcome of Joseph's life. Joseph was later charged with 4 counts of armed kidnapping, and first-degree murder. And after pleading no contest, he was declared legally insane and committed to the Arizona State Hospital. However, Joseph was released just 6 months later, despite prosecutors and some of the psychiatrists believing that they weren't convinced he was safe to be back out in public. 2 years after the hostage crisis, the same delusions appeared again. Joseph was arrested at a Phoenix convenience store after assaulting and threatening
There's somebody in the bus.
screaming that Johnny Cash was going to kill his family. This time, the arrest triggered a probation violation of the original hostage case. Joseph was sent to prison, and he wouldn't be released until 2005, more than 2 decades after he first walked into that newsroom with a gun. On March 5th, 1989, the news crew in Moss Corner Dave the search for 5-year-old Justin Lee Turner. 2 days earlier, Justin's stepmother, Pamela Turner, had called the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office after he never
Oh wait, this guy killed me again. There's two people here.
When the bus returned that afternoon, he wasn't on it. Once police checked with the school and other witnesses, they learned that he never made it to the bus that morning. Police, the Berkeley County Rescue Squad, and dozens of volunteers searched the area around the Turner property off Horseshoe Road. They combed through the woods surrounding the home and checked sheds, storage spaces, and constructions.
Where are they at?
No sign of Justin. By the morning of March 5th, search
He's inside this room. He has a green arrow, green laser. There you go, I got my turret though, bitches. I got my fucking turret though, bitches.
I got a canner. There's somebody on top of the building. On the bottom. Where the bus is at.
2 days earlier, Justin's stepmother, Pamela Turner, had called the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office after he never came home.
Oh my god, let's go.
There you go, hacker. How did you get up there below us, you fucking idiot? Oh my fucking god. Of course I only died because of teammates.
Once police checked with the school and other witnesses, they learned that he never made it to the bus that morning. For the next 2 days, local
Where they
police,
at?
the Berkeley County Rescue Squad, and dozens of volunteers searched the area around the Turner property off Horseshoe Road. They combed through the woods surrounding the home and checked sheds,
They're in the back.
spaces, and abandoned structures across the property.
Hacker. Oh, it's Ghost.
By the morning of March 5th,
God.
search crews were getting ready to spend another full day.
Okay, Ghost. Oh my
The
god,
hell?
turn your fucking mods off, you fucking faggot.
Followed them around, documenting the search.
I'm gonna rape your fucking mom tonight. Stupid
The search
bitch.
barely lasted 5 minutes as Justin's father, Victor Lee Turner, walked into an old camp and looked inside.
Ghost is. He's always fucking hacking.
Watch the house.
Up top. There you go. Not who Jinx hacking because I was not even fucking close to that.
No way, bro.
Wasn't even close to it.
After Maeve revealed
They got
something
fucking-
he intended to, the Turner property was immediately locked in as a
There's
started searching for
somebody sniping over there.
Hacker. No, yeah, there's the other ghost that's hacking,
Don't
alright?
know.
ended up hidden there in the first place. Autopsy results later showed that Justin was strangled. Evidence from the camp. The case went on to stall for years. The lead at alleged when Justin was found. Investigators found that, according to reports, the camper had already been searched during the first 2 days Justin was missing.
Bro, there's two of them over here.
Earlier searches were done.
Hacker. Explain this to me. How do I shoot you in the head multiple times with
Damn,
a
brother,
DTI
clicking
on
on this
30 on
lap.
6? A DTI 30 on 6 in the fucking head. And you don't fucking die.
Someone's already behind me already? It's crazy.
Hacker. I shit on you guys so fucking bad. You gotta turn your fucking mods on.
Now, to be fair, there's no single.
Hey, if the Mexicans on our team could start fucking doing something, because I know you guys are usually cheating, that'd be greatly fucking appreciated.
Cheating, nigga? You're crazy. Goofy ass nigga.
Despite all of these observations, the suspicion around Victor and
This guy in the
Connor
rooftop.
wasn't enough to hold up in court. Most of the evidence were circumstantial, without physical evidence separating former family contact from the investigated. Investigators had no way to turn those suspicions into something they could actually do. As the years passed and the case went
Hey, Juan, we're cheating, bro.
Berkeley County had moved to South Carolina.
Just lock in, bro.
And according to
Lock in.
It's
Don't
just
worry
a
about it.
statistic.
law enforcement again to ask
I don't
about
even
any progress had been made.
I have it down to a statistic. Anybody with Mex in their name is cheating.
Hinted at something far more chilling than a family cover-up. In September 2023,
Bro, they're fucking camping, bro.
of serial killer Richard Martinez. One of them uncovered something unexpected. He had served in the Navy. After tracking down naval records, the student found that the ship he was assigned to arrived in Charleston.
They're right there, Chew.
in 1980.
Behind you, dumbass.
Longest where investigators lived was only about a 50-minute drive from your port. And once researchers started comparing Richard's known crimes to Justin's case,
Damn, bro.
similarities became difficult to avoid. Just like the theory surrounding the two murders, there was still no physical evidence directly tying Richard against the death. The police couldn't question him because by that time, Richard had already been dead for more than 20 years. The Boston police chasing Florida in 2002 after one of his kidnapping victims escaped.
Hacker. Again, I have a fucking MCW. I shit on you, but because you have a fucking crossbow, you get 10 times health? Is that what it is? You get 10 times more health than I do? That's amazing, cheater. That's absolutely fucking amazing.
The answer remained uncertain for decades, until investigators announced what looked like the first real break in the case in 35 years. Using newer forensic testing methods, investigators re-examined the to them, the fibers were consistent with the possibility that someone used to strangle him. Shortly afterwards, a 68-year-old Victor and 63-year-old
The fuck was that? I thought that just killed her.
Just a few months later, in June 2024,
You guys don't like getting shit on at the beginning of the game?
35 years, with over 20 witnesses.
Oh, what did I say? I said Wojing, Ghosts, and... Oh, TK said must not be talked Hey, about. Ghost, I don't know if you're That's the actually first two, cheating, right? but if you are, nigga, you're pussy. And go to Black Ops 6 and cheat pussy.
So, after everything, the mystery of Justin's murder landed right where it started in
13 and 34, best score in the game. Let's go.
WCBD may still be the closest thing this case ever gets to an answer.
Mira esto. Hola, Chan. ¿Puedes poner mi pelo con los colores de la selección argentina para que se vea natural, eh?
On July 7th, 2006, a user under the name Box uploaded a new location to the website Urban Exploration Resource. The listing looked routine, an abandoned hotel in Atlanta. But buried in the photo gallery was a horrifying set of images that would set off one of the darkest internet mysteries that remains unsolved. Urban Exploration Resource, or UER, is an old online forum built around people documenting and discussing abandoned buildings and other forgotten urban spaces. This particular location was an abandoned hotel somewhere in Atlanta, Georgia, where Box and a few friends had gone to photograph whatever had been left behind before the building was cleared out. At first, nothing about the hotel seemed unusual. It had 4 floors, rows of ordinary-looking rooms, and wide interior walkways that looked down over a pool in the center of the building. And judging by the personal belongings still scattered throughout some of the rooms, it could not have been empty very long ago. According to Box's own description of the location, though, the final chapter of the hotel had been anything but quiet. This hotel was built in 1972, renovated in 1993. It spent most of its life as a major chain hotel. In 2004, the hotel became independent of the major chain. The main business model after that was a long-term stay hotel. This attracted many drug dealers and other illegal business to the hotel, and it was raided by the DEA and local authorities at least once. After many years of showed the room where the crime took place, with a bed and walls both heavily naturally, once other phone users saw the gallery, the first thing they wanted to know was whether Box had taken the photographs with him when he left. Because if the prints were still there, they could be turned over to authorities to figure out where they came from. Box said to him there were, quote, authorized people gutting the place, and he didn't want to be seen taking anything. He also explained how the photos were too morbid, and he'd been in too much shock to even consider it. Instead, he posted a map link to the location, so anyone in the area could go and retrieve the photos for themselves. But when one of the users visited the very next day and searched through the building, the photographs were already gone. Now, one explanation could be that Box had taken the photographs from somewhere else and attached them to his post for attention. One One user even asked if the photos were fake stuff, but when you try reverse searching the images, they don't show up in a single other place online. If they had been taken from a movie or some case archive, you would think there must have been at least one other trace of them somewhere online, which means these prints may be documentation of a genuine crime scene, and the only surviving record of it is this photo post from 2006. Unfortunately, nothing about the post gives any clues as to where the prints came from or why they've been left there. Considering the criminal activity at the hotel before it shut down, the simplest theory is that the crime itself took place in one of the rooms taken by whoever did it. Maybe they were supposed to be trophies or some kind of record the killer never expected anyone else to find. And if the building really had been raided before it closed, it isn't hard to imagine someone fleeing in panic and leaving the prints behind along with everything else they could take with them. However, there are some problems with this explanation. Firstly, in the photos box uploaded, the hotel rooms really appear to be carpeted, but the crime scene captured in the prints has wooden floorboards. On top of that, if the crime had happened somewhere inside the hotel, you'd expect at least one of the explorers wandering through to stumble onto the walls and buildings soaked in blood.
What?
The stack show the same body on a white surface that looks more like an autopsy table than anything inside an abandoned hotel room. This suggests the victim was found and processed by authorities at some point, so these prints could have belonged to someone connected to the investigation or to a case file where those images have been preserved as evidence. But it feels far more plausible compared to the idea that the killer simply left them behind. There's still no solid proof that connects the photographs to a real case. Looking through the missing person reports from the Atlanta area from that period, anyone whose details match the victims in the photographs. This might suggest the crime happened years before the pictures were discovered. Completely different part of the country. Unfortunately, even 20 years later, we still need to prove that someone would carry evidence to a pile of old clothes and just leave it there. On February 26, 2026, a series of videos began spreading throughout the unregulated the most horrifying crimes in Poland's recent history. At first, the footage gave viewers almost no context. It showed a teenage boy standing in a garage, calmly swinging an axe through the air, like he was practicing to hit something. But the next clip revealed exactly what that practice may have been for. For this video, the camera was inside a home late at night. The same boy
Damn!
to be asleep.
Oh, good shit.
And stepped back toward them. He then picked up the axe and began swinging before either victim had a chance to wake up. As disturbing as this footage was, it unfortunately didn't seem much different from the material that's
Oh, come here again.
These platforms are videos stripped of context, so many times over the years that no one knows. These clearly were not something just pulled from an old archive. Instead, everything about them, from the video quality to the interior of the house, seemed fairly modern, which meant the gruesome event it captured may have been more recent than people first realized. With this realization, clips broke out of these horror sites and spread across social media and private messaging apps. At 4 a.m. people had forwarded the clips and links that
Look at this guy.
footage as evidence. Using whatever was visible in the background of the clips, investigators returned the footage to a property in the small village of Kodwód in southern Poland within a few hours. The boy in the videos was identified as 17-year-old Łukasz. When officers arrived at the home, their worst fears were confirmed. They had found his 38-year-old stepfather and his 7-year-old grandmother right where the killer had shown up intact. With the crime now confirmed, officers began searching the area surrounding the property, which led them roughly 45 kilometers away to a cluster of bushes by a nearby river where Łukasz was hiding. Given what had just been found inside the house, many would have expected him to panic, run, or try to deny what had happened. The 17-year-old showed no resistance during his arrest and seemed unnervingly calm. His behavior was almost impossible to make sense of what was going on or what his motive was. Until investigators found one last piece of media he had uploaded. It was a roughly 2-minute video titled Łukasz sat in front of the camera and introduced himself as a family murderer before admitting that he had killed 2 people inside his home. Speaking in the same flat and detached tone throughout, he then described the days leading up to the murders. He claimed that someone at work had been humiliating and insulting him for weeks until he felt he simply couldn't take it anymore. But instead of directing his anger toward the person he claimed had mistreated him, Lukash turned it toward his girlfriend. In his mind, as he slipped on in that same workplace, he had somehow become part of the very things were meant to get, and so had everyone else. Rather than sounding horrified by what he had done, Lukash started justifying himself, saying, in his opinion, murder was a part of human life. That people had been killing one another since the beginning, and that the only difference now was that someone like him would be called a psychopath for it. Despite that self-awareness, he insisted that he wasn't, and promised that he wouldn't take another shot. And to anyone watching the videos, his insistence that he wasn't mentally ill was the clearest sign that he was. On one hand, he looked composed as a picture of Kim. Yet on the other hand, he was unable to see anything wrong with the two bodies he just left behind. Looking back, it's hard not to see him as a deeply disturbed teenager who gradually lost his grip on reality. Eventually, Lukash was charged with double homicide and now faces up to 30 years in prison. In the time since, the videos have largely been scrubbed from the internet, with Polish police asking people to stop sharing them out of respect for the families. Unfortunately, footage like this never truly disappears. It continues to get passed around in the darkest corners of the internet.
Acemoji has
What the fuck?
and text art to choose from. Download now. Get ready to rise or shine. Discover the sealing orthopedic featuring precision fit coils arranged right for targeted support night after night. Sealy and Ashley.
The internet is just one of those things that has a way of pulling you into places you never expected to end up. Researching these videos, I constantly get lost in endless forums and everything from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. You can book in-person or video visits, see real-time availability, and schedule instantly with no phone calls required. Appointments made through ZocDoc typically happen within just 24 to 7 hours. Taking care of your health just got way more convenient. Go to my link in the description at ZocDoc.com/chillingscares to get started and check that appointment off your to-do list. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. In December 2014, a Japanese website appeared online with a slogan on its homepage that immediately explained the meaning of which place. When translated to English, it read, "I wish my husband would die right now. I think about it every day." The site was called Danishin.com, which translates to diehusband.com, and it functioned as an anonymous forum where wives could write about the men they were married to. First looking at the site, most of the entries read like desperate venting from women who were putting something in for I've been with this guy. He thinks it's okay when I'm not good and complains if he doesn't like something. Does the world revolve around him? I'm just annoyed by being with this rude jerk. He's been lying to me for years, and I have been deceived all this time. But I've reached my limit. When I tie him, and when he's at a loss, he stays silent. Posts like these fill hundreds of pages on the site. Anonymous wives gave away household money, drunk, and treated their families by digging deeper into the posts. That resentment would sometimes turn into series in which writing someone's name in a supernatural notebook causes them to treated the forum as exactly that. The notebook was directed to the grim begging them to kill their husbands for them. How long is this scumbag husband going to live? Grim Reaper, please come and take this scumbag husband away quickly. As soon as possible, please. Good morning.
Oh, Lord.
These niggas were like sniping the shit out of us. Good shit.
Oh!
Dude, see, they were quick scoping. Look at that. See, he didn't even hit him. He didn't even hit him.
I know, I see that.
That shit wasn't even hit. But whatever.
Y'all
We
like
stood
the
there,
sniper
we stood
skills?
there. Nah, shit was bogus, nigga.
Oh,
Come on.
As the women returned in ominous celebrations. For instance, one woman described finding her husband cold in bed one morning and calling an ambulance. And her post reveals exactly what she felt when the responders confirmed that he had passed away. Honestly, I'm so happy. Thank you, Grim Reaper. While other users in the comments enviously congratulated her. And as unsettling as all of this tragedy is, these posts aren't even close to the darkest thing on the site. But once you understand the world these women come from, the site starts to look more complicated than it first appears. Japan is a fairly conservative society when it comes to divorce. The simplest way to end a marriage is through mutual consent. If the husband refuses to sign the divorce papers, the wife is forced through mediation and lengthy court proceedings just to get out of a life she no longer wants to be in. Even after separation, most women face judgment from their own families and communities, because divorce carries a level of shame that makes leaving feel like a public failure. And for single mothers, it's even worse, as the pressure is often tied to money. Many of the women writing on Dana Sheen described being financially trapped, unable to afford a separate life. So, to many of them, the death of their husband genuinely appears to be the only way to ever live a happy life again. And when a platform is built entirely around this belief, it becomes the perfect place for someone already on the edge to convince themselves that taking matters into their own hands is the next logical step. Which is exactly what happened. In some of the most extreme entries on the site, begging the Grim Reaper wasn't enough. One woman wrote, "I want to somehow find a way to kill my husband without getting caught. I'll pretend to be sad when he dies." Sadly, she wasn't the only one. Some depraved users admitted to preparing bug-infected food and feeding it to their husbands to make them sick. And a few even further on step-by-step instructions on how to poison a husband by lacing his drinks with drugs that shut organs down slowly without raising suspicion. And because these posts are written anonymously, there's no way of knowing whether they are simply dark fantasies or genuine confessions from women who actually went through with it, which suddenly makes the death counter a lot harder to look at. There's no way to know how many of those deaths happened on the but as depraved as these entries were, some of the hardest ones to read weren't directed at husbands at all. Some of them were written by women who started hoping for their own end. And once you start reading entries like these, it becomes clear that many of the women using this site were driven by cruelty. They were writing from places of exhaustion, fear, and years of hatred. The darkest things were the only ones that still made sense. And when you read what they were actually living through, it's hard not to understand. One woman wrote, "My heart is dead. It's being killed by the verbal abuse of my husband. When he's in a bad mood, he takes it out on me. He says it's all my fault, and this happened because my character is rotten, connecting even the most unrelated things. I've tried to forget, to ignore it, and endured it until now, but I can't take it anymore." For others, the ill treatment went far beyond words. When I was 3 months pregnant with my first child, he pushed me down the stairs during a reading, fracturing a bone that took 6 months to heal. When I was in my 9th month of pregnancy with my first child, he took me to a remote mountain area, threw me out of the car, and dragged me around. In the end, Dana Sheen, or Die Husband, was built on the desperation of women who felt trapped in lives they couldn't escape. It's the desperation of women
We've taken the lead. Hostile UAV in the area. Friendly UAV on station.
0, 2.
On the evening of February 22nd, 2023, a 26-year-old Microsoft employee was walking home from the Microsoft One Astera building at 5:45. He noticed a man shouting at the top of his lungs. But before he could make sense of what was happening, he was punched to the ground and stabbed 13 times. The entire attack lasted roughly 10 seconds, but it was enough to leave him school furniture, brain bleed, and nerve damage. As the suddenly attacked the attacker, but he simply fled the scene and walked down the street to his own apartment roughly 4 blocks away, leaving a trail of blood that a SWAT team then followed straight to his door. The attacker was identified as 27-year-old Joseph Richard Cantrell, who was also a software engineer at Microsoft. That connection immediately led police to suspect a workplace rivalry. According to the victim, he had never seen Joseph before in his life, and the two didn't even work in the same building. So, the more investigators learned about the attack, the less it looked like Joseph had been targeted. For any explanation, it was Joseph's own website. When the investigators went through his personal computer, they found a hidden link to a text file. It was a 234,000-word journal that Joseph had been writing for years and uploaded to the internet just hours before he carried out the attack. And somewhere inside those pages was the answer to why a random Microsoft to understand what was inside the journal, understand what Joseph believed about himself. And the clearest window into that was the About section of his website. Alongside other other surface level information, Joseph was experiencing what he called neural disturbances, where he claimed to have danced and conversed with processions of rainbow ghost women who kept him company through the night. So, before the journal even began, his own introduction already suggested a mind that wasn't interpreting reality in an ordinary way. Those hallucinations would appear again and again throughout the journal, often during some of Joseph's most important decisions. Neural deceleration disorder, a condition he believed his neurons at a slower rate, leaving him intellectually suppressed unless he corrected it himself. And the way he corrected it would be the first of many unsettling things revealed throughout his journal. Although Joseph had tagged the file at his the exact opposite. According to drug usage, which became what he described as an overall life journey. In an attempt to treat his self-diagnosed disorder. Joseph didn't write like someone trying to break free of an addiction. He wrote like a scientist reviewing data. He described amphetamines as his ticket to life, the substance he believed was the only thing correcting his disorder. He promised to remain addicted until at high enough doses, he wrote, produced rainbow women and even white love. After the drug catalog, the world shifted into a chronological account of Joseph's life, starting from before his birth, his mother's drinking and smoking during pregnancy, his father being estranged before Joseph even arrived. Within the first few entries, Joseph revealed that he'd been prescribed Adderall for ADHD, and that he had renounced his faith by 7 years old. The further the journal went, the heavier the entries became. Eventually, Joseph made it out of Columbus and into Georgia Tech, with a bachelor's degree in computer science. On paper, it was a remarkable achievement for someone who had grown up but the journal made it clear that as his abilities grew, so did his obsessions. He taught himself game development and immediately put that skill to use, building a series of disturbing projects that he proudly displayed on like Rocket Launcher, a 2D shooter where the player runs down an endless wave of religious figures including Jesus, Buddha, and others. Its tagline read, "Aim to offend the pillars of humanity's pursuit," and it was eventually banned from both Steam and the Google Play Store. And what his games revealed was less about shock value and more about Joseph's point of view. They reflected a pattern of hostility towards specific groups that really deepened over time. Because as the journal entries moved into his adult years, he shifted from political self-observation into something much more dangerous. With each passing entry, his paranoia grew more serious, to the point where he was convinced that movies were making direct references to him, which, by the way, is one of the most common symptoms of psychosis. For instance, one entry from December 2021, he listed dozens of films he believed were a part of a program to erase his medical history and give him a disease in to harming himself. At this point, Joseph had developed a specific fear of Jewish, Black, Brown, and South Asian people, and in his mind, that fear had calcified into an active conspiracy against him. He believed he was being gang-stalked, and he had very particular theories about how it was being done. In one entry from October 2021, he wrote about how Black and Latino gangs were getting sued, jailed, or killed, all for their own amusement, and that they were
9 and 42, let's go.
doing it all through hijacked vending machines and compromised IT departments cutting his internet connection. Perhaps one of the most unsettling parts about it all is how no one around Joseph suspected anything while his mental stability continued to derail completely. Throughout the last year, he remained fully employed at Microsoft as a software engineer. He sat in team meetings, collected a paycheck, and then came home to journal about those same meetings, writing about his Indian colleagues in papers filled with racial hostility. By the summer of 2022, Joseph's paranoia had reached the point where he could no longer stay in one place. He moved out of conventional housing and into a motel, and when the feeling of being watched didn't stop, he moved into another one. He wrote in July 2022 that for 2 years it had felt like an enemy was sitting outside his door the entire time, and that he wanted to learn guitar, but the moment he picked one up, his mind would flood with images of people surrounding his room waiting to get him. By this point, even Joseph himself seemed to recognize that his mental state was deteriorating.
What's going on here?
He wrote that he believed he was becoming paranoid. It was one of the few moments in the entire journal where
Oh no,
self-awareness
my
broke
Hulu
through.
been placed on hold. I gotta pay that.
Hundreds more pages of the same spiraling fear.
Or not
Years
done.
earlier, Joseph had described the amphetamines as his ticket to life. But after 234,000 words of paranoia, hallucinations, and isolation, it was difficult to see what kind of life
You know somebody's smoking.
Roughly 2 hours after his final entry, he walked out of his apartment and attacked a man he had never met. That man was 26-year-old Vincent Levante, the Microsoft engineer from the beginning of this story. Vincent underwent multiple surgeries to survive the wounds Joseph had inflicted. When police broke down the door of Joseph's apartment, he was found trying to destroy the evidence, a knife and gloves, still covered in blood. He was arrested and eventually charged with attempted second-degree murder and first-degree assault. However, no one has been able to determine why Joseph chose Vincent Levante that evening. But the journal, now only available in Internet archives, seems to offer the only explanation for this. Because by the end of it, his paranoia had grown so extreme that almost anyone could become an enemy in his mind.
Jesus fucking.
Gaza is at a tipping point. The adults who are malnourished today
On the surface, planecrashinfo.com looks like one of the plainest websites on the internet. In 1997, a researcher named Richard Karachi created it. As the name suggests, it's an old aviation database that catalogs virtually every plane crash in modern aviation history. But one page on this site contains something far more disturbing than any accident report. The site documents everything from landing gear failures where every passenger walked away alive to crashes that left nothing but wreckage and a death toll on pilots. For each of these aviation incidents going back over a century, the site logs various times what aircraft was involved, when it happened, how many people were on board, and the number who didn't survive. But in some cases, it also documents how and why they happened, which means that for some of the worst disasters in aviation history, it's possible to trace step by step how a single overlooked mistake ended hundreds of lives. Unfortunately, Aeroflot Flight 3352 was one of those crashes. On October 11th, 1984, the aircraft was preparing to land at Omsk Airport when the flying control officer fell asleep and told the controllers that the runway wasn't clear. The aircraft touched down at 240 kilometers per hour. The pilots had barely a second to spot the maintenance vehicle turning in half before
Holy
slamming
shit,
into them,
hard.
resulting in the death of 179 people on board. But as disturbing as it is to read these summaries, the most unsettling part of the site is one specific page, Last Words. This page is a long collection of voice recordings, each one capturing the final seconds inside the cockpit before impact. In some of them, you can hear the exact moment the pilot realizes that nothing they do is safe. For instance, in this clip, you can hear how a controlled situation turned into a chilling panic because the pilot realized the runway was too short only after it was too late.
Collapse. There we go. I'm flying. I'm up. Flying.
That was East Coast Jet Flight 81, 1st, 2008, which crashed into a cornfield beyond the runway, killing all 8 people on board. There are dozens of recordings like this on the site, each capturing the final moments from a different crash and a different crew. In some, you can clearly hear warning messages that pilots deliberately ignore.
Terrain ahead. Terrain ahead. Hold up.
This was Polish Air Force Flight PL. On that day, pilots had extremely low visibility due to heavy fog. They attempted a manual descent, but as they got closer to the ground, they were given automated terrain warning alarms. Alarms which they ignored, trusting in their own abilities. The aircraft struck a set of trees and rolled uncontrollably a short distance from the runway. All 96 people on board were killed, including the president of Poland at the time. The final moments of which are forever immortalized on Plane Crash Info, alongside dozens of other catastrophic plane crashes.
Facemoji has tons of awesome themes, fonts, and text art to choose from. Download now.
Tempur-Pedic breeds make sleep feel cool, so no more sweat coming in or blasting.
shotgun.
That it was asking ex-convicts to take a survey, reading research participation. Hello, my name is Ryan. I invite you to participate in a research project that seeks to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense, with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. In the event that your most recent offense was not one that led to a conviction, you may still participate. Additional surveys are included in the open-ended section as to best understand your unique traits. The study should take about 15 to 20 minutes to fully complete. This was then followed by a rather professional-sounding disclaimer from the OP, as well as his email and full name. Now, requests for surveys like this aren't exactly uncommon on these subreddits, especially from students much like Brian. But the questions in this one are a bit strange, asking things like, how did you travel from and to the location that the crime occurred? Before making your move, how did you approach the victim or target? Before leaving, is there anything else you did? How did you leave the scene? However, the DeSales University email ID and the fact that the survey was hosted on an official-looking website suppress any suspicion people might have about suspicious. It's unclear how many people actually completed the survey, but Brian must have had some luck because he
Who under the giant ball? Oh, we got our ass
Fucking
kicked.
was that this survey would
Holding my house.
Well, I don't know why y'all niggas holding dicks with shotguns, but y'all niggas
I'm
say.
using a sniper, what do you mean?
Crazy, huh?
Yo, Crash Out, was I talking about your dumbass? No.
I can't understand you, little bro.
ended up becoming evidence for one of the worst crimes in Idaho's history. The police first became aware of the situation on November 13th, 2022 at around noon after receiving a disturbing 911 call traced to Moscow, Idaho.
911 location of your emergency. Something is happening. Something's happening in the house. I don't know what. What is the address of the emergency? 112.
The caller was sobbing so hard she could barely explain what was happening. Then another girl grabbed the phone from her and told the dispatcher that her roommate was unconscious and not breathing. Officers rushed to the scene, expecting the worst outcome. However, nothing could have prepared them for the brutally gruesome scene they were about to walk into. The house, located on Kings Road, was the off-campus residence of several University of Idaho students. And upon arrival, the officers saw bloody remains of 4 of these students scattered throughout the house. All 4 of them had numerous lacerations and stab wounds, and had tragically already passed away by the time help arrived. According to later autopsy reports, the 4 were attacked by likely the same person at around 4 a.m. One of the surviving roommates, who later called 911, remembered seeing a masked stranger roaming around the house around that time. But she was too intoxicated to trust her own vision and passed out shortly after locking her bedroom door. Crime scene investigators arrived at the scene shortly after the police and began looking for clues. Unfortunately, the only thing they found in the house was the leather sheath of a knife under one of the victims. This